So turning to the concept of shame, shame is the outcome really of a stress response. So when somebody perceives a situation as a threat to their survival, they may, because it's a irredeemable deviation from the acceptable norms in their micro-community, they may perhaps elicit the response, it's an automatic response within them, that their logical brain, the logical part of their brain called the cerebral cortex, is disengaged, and they go to the most primitive response, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response. So what happens in these situations, for instance, where somebody, perhaps a father, discovers that his daughter is having a relationship that he doesn't approve of, in the context often of Muslim communities, but in a Western community it could be drug abuse, it could be alcohol abuse, where this elicits the feeling of shame. It's this irredeemable deviation from the norms of that particular micro-community. And what often happens is that it's a no man's land, that nobody can be allowed to engage in dialogue with that family, that party, because of this deep sense of shame. They feel that they can't see a tomorrow continuing with this situation. There's also a sense of survival, that they need to survive, the fight to survive, and therefore they must be able to put this shame aside. Sometimes it involves the threat of violence to the extent of killing somebody because they're so anxious to delete this aberration, this unacceptable deviation. And so a lot of my work involves dealing with exactly that sort of situation in the Muslim communities, but shame, it pops up elsewhere. Mental health can also be something that somebody in a Western context could feel very ashamed about, either in themselves, their partner, their child. And so the same idea of denial, of wanting to get rid of that shameful aspect of their lives can arise, and wanting to keep it a secret. And if there's a threat of that secret being disclosed, then they react in a very similar way to perhaps the more familiar honor-based violence, which I prefer to call shame-triggered violence, because the threat of violence is actually triggered from a sense of shame rather than a sense of honor.